All right, I'm just going to record these next couple lectures because it's spring and there's going to be a lot of disruptions and kids are going to be missing notes and materials. So this is just one way that you can have access to all of that. So we are starting on a brand new chapter, Chapter 9, Plant Diversity. I know what you're thinking. Oh man, Mrs. Erickson, plants again. This is a really short chapter dealing with, what really is a plant. I know we discussed plants and photosynthesis way back at the beginning of the school year. But this is just going to talk about some special adaptations that plants have and what does it mean to be a plant. And then we'll talk about two big groups of plants. So plant diversity. First off, today we're going to talk about characteristics that are common to all plants. What are those adaptations that enabled plant species to survive Earth's changing environments? And finally, how are plants classified? Now, we did an adaptation project with animals when we were talking about natural selection. And so remember, adaptations are a feature that an animal has, or a behavior, or maybe it's a physiological mechanism that allows it to survive better in its environment than other organisms. And so when we did our plant/animal adaptation, all of you pretty much chose animals. No one really chose plants, okay? So what is a plant? First off, cell structure. We are still eukaryotic here, okay? We started discussing animals like the animal kingdom, or basically the tree of life with bacteria, prokaryotes, archaea. Then we transitioned into protists and fungi. Those organisms are both eukaryotic. So now here we are with plants, again, eukaryotic. They have a nucleus and organelle. They do differ from animal cells in a few key ways. Number one, plant cells have chloroplasts. Okay, the chloroplast, located here and here and here, is an organelle that absorbs light energy to make sugar. This is where photosynthesis occurs. Another key difference between plant cells and animal cells is that plant cells have a cell wall. Okay, cell walls provide support and protection. Animal cells, they don't have a cell wall. They just have the cell membrane. Plant cells have a cell wall and a cell membrane. Okay, that cell wall is made up of cellulose. It's really hard for us to break it down. Only certain animals can digest cellulose, and they do it with the help of bacteria. Third key difference between plant cells and animal cells is an organelle called a vacuole. Okay, this large structure in the center. It stores water and sap and any other materials that the plant needs to have stored. So this vacuole, you can see, is large. It pretty much takes up the entire space. When vacuoles are filled with water, the plant is rigid or turgid. But then when plants wilt, what's happening is that their vacuole is low on water. There's not a lot of water in that vacuole, so everything kind of collapses upon itself and the plant wilts. So then when you water the plant or it rains, then that vacuole stores up, fills up with water, and becomes turgid again. Okay, so here is a plant cell. Some more organelles that you should be aware of. So we'll start in the center. Because plant cells are eukaryotic, they have a nucleus. So this structure right here is the nucleus. A mitochondria, the powerhouse of the cell. Here's that cell membrane on the inside of the cell wall. These pictures are supposed to represent chloroplasts. This is supposed to be a chloroplast. This is supposed to be a chloroplast. This is supposed to be a chloroplast. And that central vacuole kind of looks like a swimming pool. There's the cell wall. So I think in your active notes, you're supposed to label these structures. Okay, plant cells are multicellular. They're made up of many cells. And because they are multicellular, we have special cells that carry out certain jobs. Like a root cell of a plant is way different from a leaf cell of a plant. The root cell, its main job is probably to absorb nutrients to grow and make its way through the soil to find water and other nutrients. Whereas a leaf cell, it's probably its primary function is to make sugars through photosynthesis, to capture light energy and convert it into chemical energy, sugar. Plants are producers. That means that they make their own food. So they use an outside energy source, in this case the sun, to make their own food, and that food is sugar. So this process is photosynthesis, and all life, all organisms depend on producers for food. Okay, I mean, you can trace everything you eat back to the sun, but what comes after the sun? Producers. Okay, so, right now I'm having a cup of coffee. Okay, coffee beans, coffee plant. It's a plant. It gets its energy from the sun. If you had pancakes this morning, flour, it's a grain. Grain comes from a type of plants. Plants get their energy from the sun. Maybe you had some bacon with your pancakes, right? So bacon comes from pigs, unless you had like turkey bacon, but whatever. It comes from an animal, and that animal most likely ate grain. And then grain is a plant. Plants get their energy from the sun. So here's photosynthesis. Recap. Hopefully this comes back to you a little bit. What photosynthesis is you take water and carbon dioxide with some sunlight, and you convert oxygen and glucose, sugar. So you make oxygen and sugar. These are the products. This is what comes out of photosynthesis. These are called reactants, what goes in photosynthesis. And photosynthesis takes place inside the plants, specifically the organelle, the chloroplast. So, question for you, where does the water come from? Okay, where does water come from? All right, it comes from the sky. It rains down onto the plant. That plant's out, it's outside, it's living outside, or maybe it's your household plant in your house. You water it. So where does that water come from? Okay, it comes from the water cycle. It comes from the soil. All right, where does the carbon dioxide come from? It comes from animals. Okay, you're exhaling carbon dioxide right now. Other animals exhale carbon dioxide right now. We put carbon dioxide up in the atmosphere through burning of fossil fuels. Okay, so it comes from the atmosphere, it comes from animals, it comes from processes that, we humans direct. So water and CO2 enter the plant. Sunlight, mix it in with a little bit of sunlight, chemical reactions occur. And what do plants produce for us? Two very important molecules: oxygen, which we breathe in, and glucose. Okay, we eat that, consume that. Sugar gives us energy. Okay, so that's all we're going to do for 9.1. You do have an assignment. It's called the 9.1 Plant A questions.